Thank you for joining us. It's always very much appreciated. A very special and warm welcome to our guest, Lieutenant Colonel Reserve Sarit Zehavi, who will be speaking to us from the Alma Research and Education Center. This evening, we're going to have the opportunity to hear from Sarit. This is going to be followed by a Q&A session. So I encourage you, as always, down the bottom, the Q&A tab, please place your questions there and we'll do our best to
Um,
try and get to many of those. Before I formally introduce Sarit, I just want
Doron,
to,
I'm
yep,
sorry to interrupt.
yep.
We have sirens in the region, so
Oh,
I will shut down the camera and prepare the laptop in case that I will have to run to the bomb shelter, and so I will be able to okay.
no
So
problem.
I am with you, but just not with the camera, okay?
Okay, no problem at all.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Um, I was just about to say that we could very well have an interruption given what is going on in the north. And as Irita's just informed us, there are sirens, so she's going to do her best to remain online. But of course, we understand should we have to bring an end to the webinar. So just before I introduce Sarit, thank you for all your support and your current support of the Israel in Crisis Emergency Response Campaign, which is supporting frontline emergency firefighters, portable bomb shelters, especially needed for those workers in regional areas who don't have access and readily available access. You can still support this campaign just by visiting our website or clicking on the link that's in the chat below. Another thing to mention is we're soon going to be launching the JNF Impact Report for 2025. And what you'll see this report showcases is all the work that we've done together since October 7, where you've directly supported over 100 vital projects in the border communities in the north and the south, and communities that I'm sure you're going to hear about tonight that provide essential and strategic protection for all of Israel. Together, since October 7, we've distributed over $25 million in Israel, and something that all of you should be very proud of. And really, what's important for you to know is that 100% of these funds, the funds that we send on your behalf, is received in full directly by our project partners. And this is your impact. This is truly rebuilding Israel. This is strengthening her future, family by family, community by community. And as always, JNF, we provide full transparency from your donation all the way to the final project destination. One other thing to note, when you receive your impact report, every project that we undertake, every project that we adopt is a direct request by those on the ground. They understand the immediate and the long-term needs of their community. So again, thank you so much. Now, speaking of those who deeply understand a situation, let me more formally introduce our guest speaker, Sarit. Sarit is the founder and president of the Alma Research and Education Center. The center is a non-profit independent research and education center, and they specialize in Israel security challenges on its northern border. And of course, we all know from the news, and we've just heard from Sarit, her insights are going to be most appreciated given the current situation and the attacks that we're seeing from Hezbollah. Without embarrassing Sarit too much, a little bit about her. She's briefed hundreds of groups and forums, ranging from senators to politicians and journalists. She's written numerous papers and updates focusing on Lebanon, on Syria, and Israel's national security challenges. Sarit served for 15 years in the Israeli Defense Forces. She specialized in military intelligence, and she's also a member of Forum Devora, which promotes the equal representation of women in key decision-making positions and fields of national security and foreign policy. Sarit lives in the Western Galilee. So, of course, Sarit, we wish for peaceful days ahead, especially for those in the north, for you and your family. Sarit is going to provide her expert insights for the next 20 minutes or so. We're then going to have the Q&A, as I mentioned before. So please, questions in the Q&A tab, and we're going to try our best to get to those. So Sarit, welcome. I just heard you say before, as we jumped online, it's been a night where you've hardly slept. So we really appreciate you giving up your time and to share your thoughts on Israel's northern front and regional security. So, Sarit, over to you.
First, thank you very much for having me, Doron. It's a pleasure to continue to brief people across the world with everything that is happening here. It's been a hectic night and a hectic morning. I don't know if you could hear. There were a lot of blasts just around me. Basically, all the communities around where I'm based had the sirens, so luckily I didn't. But the blasts were very loud here, just outside of the window of the interceptions of the rockets. I want to start with a small conversation that I had with a friend she has one of the most famous restaurants here in the region. She's Druze, and her son is serving in the IDF combat soldier. And she told me, Sarit, people across the world don't know what we feel, the mothers of the soldiers. People across the world don't know about our sleepless nights. And people across the world don't know that our soldiers cherish life and don't cherish death. And she asked me to tell people across the world about our soldiers. That she told me that she made him lunch and she wanted to send him to him, but he couldn't get out of the battlefield to take it yesterday. And he told her, doesn't matter, give it to other soldiers. It will be as if I ate it. So I just wanted to start with sharing this with you because she and her son, they are not an exception. That's who we are. That's the Israeli spirit, and actually, it doesn't even matter whether you're Jewish or Druze. And that's the friendship that we are experiencing over here. So just I wanted to open with that. I want to show you a little bit how it looks like from outside of the window. I didn't take the video that I'm going to share with you now. I didn't take it today. I took it a few days ago, exactly from where I'm based. And this is the interception of barrage of rockets just above me, as you can see. Again, if I had the sirens, I would have run to the bomb shelter. It's a situation that the sirens were around, but nowhere, well, not where I'm based. And the smoke that you see in the picture is an IDF strike in Lebanon. I took the picture from one of the actually Christian towns, not far from the Israeli-Lebanese border, visiting a friend in that town, and we were just watching exchange of fire between IDF and Hezbollah. Again, this is a few days ago. That's the daily reality over here up north. To put things in proportion, it's the daily reality. It's better than it used to be in the war with regard to the amount of fire and with the fact that we know that the whole country and the army are here to protect us and are fighting the fight that was supposed to be fought decades ago. And this feeling is giving us a lot of encouragement that we are doing the right thing. I'm not saying to bring an end to this, but maybe to give us peace for many years. If I'm jumping for, I'm saying that it's less fire than it used to be in 2024, but yet, as you can see from my numbers, it's a lot of fire. 30 and 40 attacks every day by Hezbollah. That's not the amount of rockets or the amount of drones. That's the amount of attacks, as happened just now. I believe it was between 5 to 10 rockets in the current attack that we had a few minutes ago. Well, in 2024, it was about 30, 20 rockets in each attack. So that's why I'm saying that the situation is different. Another point is that when you look at the drones, Hezbollah is using much more drones against us. About a third of the attacks are drones attacks here, and yet hardly damages, not successfully. The drones are intercepted or whatever is happening with them, we don't know, but they don't reach their targets and they don't kill Israelis. And this is also different from the previous campaign, because back then the drones were truly a problem. It was difficult to trace them. They sent many people to the bomb shelter because once they crossed, you don't know where they are heading, so everybody are sent to the bomb shelter. And they succeeded in many times in getting in depth into Israel, and that's not the situation now. They are, in most cases, they are being shut down very close to border areas. So those who are experienced the war this time are those who are living next to the border or on the seashore, since Haifa is bombed every day. And I'm talking about Hezbollah. Of course, the missiles from Tel Aviv are keeping my family in the center of Israel in the bomb shelters every night. Like, I didn't sleep this night, but they don't sleep every night. The difference is that a missile from Iran can destroy a neighborhood, or when it explodes and they use cluster bombs inside those missiles, which means that they create a lot of places where the missiles are creating damages. It's a lot of damage. And yet Israelis have 5 minutes, at least around 4 or 5 minutes, to get to the bomb shelters with early warnings. In the north, we don't have all of that. Like you saw, I was here, I was calm, everything was fine, and then sirens, and we have like between 0 to, I don't know, 30 seconds to get to the bomb shelter. In my house, it's 15 seconds. And in most cases, you don't get it on time. Of course, you don't make it on time in 15 seconds. And that's why like the experience, is very, very different. In a minute, we'll talk about the numbers of attacks of Iran, but small spoiler, they are much less than what you see in the graphs of Hezbollah. It's a two-front war with a lot of complexities, but a lot of belief that we are doing the right thing, as I've said. I want to show you how it looks like from Hezbollah's point of view. This is a video that Hezbollah published a few days ago about launching the rockets. And the Arabic here is important because in Arabic, the whole area is defined as the occupied area of Palestine. The communities are defined as settlements. And here you can see the Hezbollah drones and how they look like when they are launched. You can see they're not too big. It's about 2 meters, 3 meters, and they can carry about 10 kilograms. This is our soldiers intercepting a drone with rifles, which is a very unusual incident. And Hezbollah took the video that was published in social media in Israel and put it in its own video. This is how the rockets look like. As I've said, the launchers here are a little bit smaller than the launchers that they used to use in the war in 2024. So Hezbollah, this is a propaganda video of Hezbollah, but it is also useful, and we evaluate the video as true, not as fake, as authentic. They are publishing a lot of these almost daily as part of the information war that they are having against us. Now look what happened. I was talking about rockets and drones, and I didn't even mention the issue of invasion and the issue of infiltration. And I want to say a few words about that because this is very important. The 43 Israeli communities, 60,000 people were evacuated in 2024 or 2023, 2024 for a year and a half until they were able to come back, and a lot of damages in their communities. You can see them in light blue in my map here. And the reason they were evacuated back then in October 8, 2023, when the war started, is because nobody could promise them that they will not be slaughtered by Hezbollah. As simple as that. The IDF was not here. Hezbollah was fully prepared and deployed on the borderline. When I'm saying on the borderline, I mean literally on the fence. And there was nothing to prevent them from crossing. Today, this decision was different. Today, the decision was to enable the people to stay in their communities and to bring the IDF at the first day very quickly into Lebanon to create a buffer between the civilians and the terrorists. You can see the 5 points that we were having in the past 2 year or so since we ended the campaign in 2024. We kept 5 hills in Lebanon that were watching the area and enabled us to monitor any movement towards the fence. Today, of course, IDF is deployed between those hills, and yesterday it was announced that it is moving a little bit forward with 2 divisions that are already inside Lebanon. What you can see in the picture is how it looks like from, from the terrain. Like the red roofs that you see in the picture are my hometown, and the hill that you see on top on the horizon line is in Lebanon, and that's point number 2 in my map. This is one of the IDF positions inside Lebanon that are making us safer. During the previous war, rockets were launched to my hometown from this hill. Now Hezbollah, with no choice, has to launch the rockets from a further distance, and that way, in some cases, they fall in Lebanon or they don't even get to Israel, and that's why I said that in a sense, the situation is better. I want to say something about the year and a half that we had between the two. It's difficult for me to say between the two wars because I feel it's one long war, but between the two campaigns inside this war. And what I'm showing while I'm talking is a video that we made about the Lebanese armed forces indications or findings of Hezbollah, rockets, tunnels, different types of weapons under the title of the disarmament of Hezbollah in South Lebanon, south of the Litani River. And what you can understand out of that video is that the numbers in the first slide, the numbers that the Lebanese army presented are very far from reality because they didn't present any proofs for these very huge numbers of 10,000 rockets that they found in South Lebanon. And the proofs that you see in this short video are about 7 or 8 proofs. And another one was published after we created the video in only about 7 locations or 8 locations in South Lebanon, which is definitely cannot be considered as a systematic disarmament of Hezbollah. The amount, and this is the map, and the amount of findings, the amount of weapons that was found clearly is far from being enough when you look at the numbers of what Hezbollah is launching against us, and you understand, and as I've said, some of that is being launched north of the Litani, but some of it is being launched south of the Litani in South Lebanon in an area that's supposed to be empty from any illegal weapon in the past 20 years, okay? A decision that was made 20 years ago, 1701. So it's not happening, and that's the reason why we are there, and that's the reason why we are under fire. IDF, in order to be capable of having this maneuver and attacking Hezbollah and searching the weapons tunnel to tunnel, house to house, called the Lebanese to evacuate. And IDF had done that in 2 different ways. At first, pretty much immediately when all of that started, IDF published a general warning to the Lebanese: stay away of the war zone, stay away of any Hezbollah assets or sites or presence, and at the same time, as you can see here, issued warnings for specific places, specific sites of where it is going to bomb, specific buildings in the Hezbollah suburb in Beirut, for instance, of where it's going to bomb Hezbollah in order to avoid as much as possible collateral damage. I can say that due to the reports in Lebanon, they do have already hundreds of casualties, but inside those hundreds, it's a rough assessment, okay? We don't have the numbers, we don't have the names, but from what IDF is reporting and from what we understand between the lines, at least half are terrorists. And again, it's a rough assessment, it's too soon to tell exactly, but that's the feeling. You can see in this map over here, the red area, that's south of the Litani River. The population, we warned them to evacuate for more than a week until we actually entered into Lebanon with those massive powers. Our forces didn't get to the Litani. I hope they will, but I'm not sure. I don't know what the IDF is exactly planning with this ground incursion. Later on, we called the population to evacuate also in the area which is north of the Litani, but very close to the Litani. because there is Hezbollah there as well, and there are airstrikes as well, and Hezbollah is launching rockets from those places as well. What was the response of the Lebanese to IDF calling them to evacuate? First, they listened. There are more than 800,000 displaced people in Lebanon. The vast majority are Muslim Shiites, which are the hardcore base of Hezbollah. And I want to share with you a video of a woman. Because, here among researchers, there is a lot of debate of whether there are cracks in the base, whether the fact that so many people are displaced, there is a cost for the war, not only on the Israeli side, but also the Lebanese side, whether this will bring to a thorough change in Lebanon and the base will start to support Hezbollah. And to be honest, there are different voices. Like this woman is one example for those who are consistently supporting Hezbollah, and she is saying that very clearly, it doesn't matter what will happen to us. We will continue to support Hezbollah. But there are videos that are saying exactly the opposite of people that are complaining against Hezbollah. And yet, I want to say something around that. And maybe Alma Center is a little bit of a lonely voice in this assessment. When Iranians wanted to protest against the regime, they went out to the streets. They protested with vast demonstrations. Not only in 2026, this has been happening for 20 years at least. When Lebanese wanted to protest, like in the economic crisis in Lebanon in 2019, they had done that with vast protests across Beirut, with people who went out to the streets, tens of thousands of them. We don't see this happening yet, and Hezbollah is making a lot of efforts to give humanitarian aid to those displaced people in order to, lower the flames and to preserve the loyalty of the base. I truly hope that the Lebanese government will stop that, will not enable Hezbollah to provide them humanitarian aid, and will provide them humanitarian aid by itself with a lot of PR around it, and to actually seize the opportunity with this strategy to enable to stop the system of the state within state of Hezbollah, to actually be there for these people and maybe to start a change. And I'm saying that, and all people around me are telling me that I'm dreaming, but it's better to dream than to completely give up. But that's the key. That's the key to when we speak of solutions, and people are asking me a lot about solutions. That's the key. I want to show you a pie that we did about the attacks, the Israeli attacks in Lebanon. We are counting only airstrikes. We cannot count any tank that launch artillery. But what you can see from here is that about 2/3 of the Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon in the current campaign are actually in South Lebanon. And this means in south of the Litani, and again, it's another proof because Israel is clearly attacking the Hezbollah sites there. This means that there was no disarmament, that Lebanese armed forces didn't do what it had to do. I want to show you how and what accurate airstrikes look like. And you can see the video of a hotel in Beirut, where we killed IRGC commanders, Iranians, in Beirut. And you can see that where the heat was, the windows, there is no electricity, there was a heat, the windows are broken, but the rest of the hotel is fine, and there is still electricity. So these are accurate strikes. Not all the strikes are like that. But when you cannot evacuate the people and you do have an opportunity, this was a meeting of IRGC, so clearly if we call them to evacuate, we damage the operational achievement. We are doing that in a very accurate way. I want to move forward, and I want to say a few words about the connection between the two arenas, between Iran, and then I'll move forward to what's happening in the campaign against the Islamic Republic and Hezbollah. In the middle of the picture, this is Hassan Nasrallah. He was the leader of Hezbollah that we killed in the previous campaign. Left to him is Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, that was killed at the first day of the current campaign, and Qasem Soleimani was an IRGC general that was killed by the Americans in Iraq in 2020. This is the axis of evil. These three are planned the extinction of the state of Israel, each of them in a different way. Khamenei, though he declared that he is banning the idea of a nuclear weapon, he ordered his scientists and his forces to enrich the uranium to 60%, which is not for civilian use by any way. He ordered to build the ballistic missiles program that one day was supposed to carry nuclear warheads. He ordered to build, it was reported in Israel that about half of the missiles that were launched towards here were with cluster bombs. Again, it's illegal, it's a war crime. He ordered that. Qasem Soleimani is the person who he's the designer of the plan to create a multi-front campaign against the state of Israel, including ground invasion. This includes October 7th and Hamas. Not exactly the date, but definitely the plan by itself. Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, planned to lead this campaign among the proxies of Hezbollah, and trained other proxies to join, including Hamas, including the Houthis of Yemen, for instance, including proxy militias of Iran in Syria and in Iraq. He built a massive power of fire and missiles against Israel that the leftovers of it is now being launched. And it's funny what I'm saying. The leftovers were more than 25,000 missiles that after the previous campaign and everything we had done were still in the hands of Hezbollah. After degrading about 80% of Hezbollah's rockets in the previous war, they were still holding 20,000 rockets. So he built a huge power that was strategically threatening us, including the Radwan brigades, which are the elite unit of Hezbollah that was planning to invade. 1,000 of them crossed the Litani River last week, waiting to meet our soldiers. They cannot fight as battalions as they planned to do, like a massive ground invasion of thousands at the same time. What they did is they spread in different places, and they are fighting a guerrilla warfare against our soldiers. What you can see in the Hezbollah flag in yellow here is who they are. And you can understand that Hezbollah is holding a gun. The gun or the rifle is part of the identity. They will never disarm voluntarily. It's just not going to happen. And you can also see a globe, because the idea is that the ideology is a global ideology. It's an ideology under the Islamic Republic, loyalty to the supreme leader. It's an ideology that should be distributed all across the world. And as we speak, this is being done, including in Australia, which we informed about a mosque in Sydney, which was making memorial services for Hezbollah military operatives that were killed in Lebanon in the previous war. How it looks like when we speak of indoctrination, this is an stadium that was full of 70,000 young Boy Scouts of Hezbollah with a picture of Khomeini on their chest, and you can see the pictures of Khamenei and Khomeini also that they are holding them, the girls are holding them. In the middle of the stadium, it was a picture of Nasrallah. This is 1 year after he was killed. This is between the two campaigns. So that's the time to move forward to Iran. And that's the total numbers of attacks of Iran until yesterday. I can add that we had one more casualty yesterday night. You can see that the total number is almost 300 attacks, but it's very few. It's like about one missile in each attack in the past few days. This is a typical war of attrition, trying to exhaust us. As I've said, people in center of Israel do not get to sleep. Many of these are launched during the night. And in many people in Israel don't have bomb shelters in their houses, so they have to go to get to the bomb shelter and then stay there for about 20 minutes and then go back to bed. And after an hour, again, that's basically the situation. Most of the targets that IDF attacked during the current campaign are ballistic missile targets, about 4,000 targets that strikes that IDF carried out in the past few weeks is against the missiles that you can see here in the picture. It's when the war started, as far as we know, they had about 2,500 ballistic missiles, but I don't know whether this include all the missiles of all types that you see here or just those that can get to Israel. The reports were not exactly clear. It's about 29 different types. The missiles that are mainly launched to Israel are those in the bottom of the picture to the left. The Hormashar, especially, is the one that we see also launched to Israel. Iran attacked everybody, and I'm getting this question often: why did they do that? Like it was Israel and United States. How come they attacked Cyprus or Oman or Turkey, countries that were Qatar, countries that were involved in the mediation between United States and Iran, countries that had a relationship with Iran? How come they attack them? And the answer is that's the tactic, that's the strategy of Iran. The idea is to create as much chaos as possible, as much damages as possible. And no, they didn't attack just American forces in those places. They attacked the energy facilities in those places before Israel attacked the energy facilities in Iran. This happened before. They attacked airports, they attacked higher buildings and symbols of these countries. And they had that, all of that right at the beginning. And the reason they had done that is because they want to create pressure inside those countries to pressure the United States to stop the campaign. Those countries didn't join. They are very much afraid. And some of them actually don't want to see a situation that the Islamic Republic will fall. Surprisingly enough, they want to see the Islamic Republic losing power, becoming weaker. They see it as a threat, no doubt, we all agree, but they don't want it to fall. They are afraid of a chaotic situation in Iran, actually rightfully afraid of this kind of scenario, of a civil war. And this will affect those countries with many aspects, from oil to refugees to economy, to undermining their own governments, which they are not democracies, clearly. And that's why they prefer a weak Islamic Republic than the fall of the Islamic Republic. So the interests are not exactly similar between all parties that are affected by this war. This is a nice video that you can see how IDF is targeting a launcher of one of those ballistic missiles that I've mentioned while they are preparing it for launch. And this is how we target the silos. What you see here are silos of launchers, and we attack this site. This is, of course, before and after it was attacked. Straits of Hormuz, something that is really troubling for everybody. Basically, the Navy was destroyed. The Navy of the Islamic Republic was destroyed. But there are mines that are planted in the sea, and they can still plant in the sea. That's one problem. And second, maybe worse, is the small commando boats, manned or unmanned, that can be sent towards big containers and ships that are going through the Straits of Hormuz. And that's why to secure the Straits is crucial to the campaign. I want to say something about it because I saw the statement of Western countries against the IDF incursion and saying at the same time that they are not willing to send security to over here. I am very worried of the decision, and maybe I will end up with that. I am very worried with the decision of the Western countries not to join this current campaign, because we are fighting pure evil. We are fighting a country that has influenced through education, through soft power, of a radical ideology that doesn't accept the very existence of democracies, of freedom, of everything we all believe in. And they spread this evil all across the world with those institutions that are soft power. They are not army yet. At the same time, they were building their military power, whether the nuclear, the ballistic missiles, or the proxies, and they are threatening the security of the whole world. And I am very much worried that this campaign will end in a situation that they will be much weaker. That's correct, but they will survive this. And if they will survive this, two things will happen. One, they will rebuild their power. They will try again, no doubt. They don't care about their own people, the Islamic Republic. They don't care that Tehran is sinking and people don't have water in Iran, that there is poor infrastructure and huge inflation. They don't care about all of that. That's the radical ideology that they are holding. And second, it will be a bad message to other radical ideologies, such as the Sunni radical ideology. Iran is Muslim Shiite, that the West is weak and they can also build massive power to one day bring to the collapse of the Western civilization. I am saying something which is dramatic. Maybe it sounds a little bit as an exaggeration. In Israel, we didn't want to see, we closed our eyes. We didn't want to see the situation in those terms of the fight against evil, the campaign against evil, until we had October 7th. And I think that since then, in a way, we changed. Israelis changed, and we were willing to fight this fight. And we feel that we are fighting the fight of the Western world. And I'm very much worried that we will not, that it will not end. Okay, we will win this, we will survive this, but that it will not end. So, Doron, I think I can stop over here and open it for questions.
Great. Thank you so much for those insights. Some sobering, some hopeful. And yeah, I've got a number of questions here, and we'll do our best to try and get through them with the time that allows. You talked about the incursion right now with the IDF into Lebanon. A question here regarding an end game. What you think is the end game for the IDF, for Israel, to protect not only the residents in the north, but all of Israel. What can that possibly look like?
Okay, of course, there is a different end game in Iran and a different end game in Hezbollah, but the principle is pretty much the same. And it says the following: we need to gain the remove of the threat. 90% remove of the threat, I think, will also be enough. Which means that if you ask me as an Israeli, and again, I am not the government, and I don't know whether the government will follow the lines that I'm going to say now, but I want to see IDF clearing the area south of the Litani River from Hezbollah's weapons, something that was supposed to happen 20 years ago. And I want to see an agreement in the end of the campaign that will not expect the Lebanese government to do it, because it's not going to do it. Meaning, I don't want to see the same agreement. I want to see a different kind of an agreement that will bring to a situation that Hezbollah is designated as a terrorist entity in Lebanon, and that way it cannot rebuild its power. Expecting the Lebanese army to disarm Hezbollah failed us again and again and again in the past 20 years. It's not something of the past few years. So they're not doing that, and especially they're not doing that in South Lebanon, which is an area that the Lebanese government just doesn't have any sovereignty in. It's Hezbollah's land. And if we want to stop this situation, we should start with the sovereignty of the Lebanese government in Beirut. We should make sure that Hezbollah is no longer a state within a state. So what am I actually saying? I'm saying that the end game is not only on the shoulders of Israel. Israel can carry out a military campaign in Iran and in Lebanon, but the end game is on the shoulders of the Lebanese themselves, if you like, the Iranians themselves as well, and of international community to put the pressure on the Lebanese, for instance, to make the right choices, and at the same time to fight follow the money, to fight all the business and math and cash flow and exchange offices and crypto and gold and everything that is being supplied to Iran and to Hezbollah. It's not going to be 100%, even if everybody will be part of this campaign of what I call follow the money, because eventually Iran is marketing with Russia and China, and I don't have any expectations around it. But I do believe that if we will see a thorough change in the way those countries are built, whether it's Iran or Lebanon, and we will see a military achievement, these two together can bring us a change, as I've said, maybe not forever, but at least to create a strategic weakness of Hezbollah and of the Islamic Republic in a way that will remove the strategic threat of the state of Israel.
Great. Thank you. You talked earlier, just continuing on that same theme, you talked earlier about south of the Litani River, mostly, you just mentioned it now, Hezbollah's territory, little controlled by the Lebanese government themselves. Is there a practical buffer zone? Is it something that is spoken about to say it needs to be 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers? Is that something that you see, is it as practical as that, or is it a much broader issue than just pure distance?
Both. So yes, there is discussion about a buffer zone, and there is discussion about 10 kilometers. Why 10 kilometers? Because the anti-tank missiles of Hezbollah, their range in most cases is 10 kilometers. There are anti-tank missiles that their ranges is a little bit more, but the vast majority are for 10 kilometers. Why is that matter? Because we don't have any defensive answer against those anti-tank missiles. And during the previous campaign, they were launched against everybody, not against tanks or necessarily. Okay, it's just a name. They were launched against houses and farmers and foreign workers and soldiers. Everybody who were basically on the borderline was targeted by those anti-tank missiles. They cannot be intercepted by Iron Dome. We don't have alerts and sirens when these are launched. You just hear, if you're lucky, you hear a whistle, and you cannot live under the threat of those anti-tank missiles. The same way, exactly, the idea of 10 kilometers is to push the terrorists away from the fence and to make sure that the elite unit, Radwan brigades, which is still alive and kicking, they still have 3,000 military operatives that were trained between the two campaigns, that they cannot have any reach out to the fence and actually to the Israeli community. So that's the idea of the 10 kilometers. But I do agree that it's not solving the whole problem because of the issue of the rockets and the missiles. And that's why I was saying that we need to see a thorough change in the very state of Lebanon. We need to see more strikes in the Hezbollah suburb in Beirut, where the whole headquarters and long-range missiles are hidden, and also in the Bekaa, which is an area next to the Syrian border, which is the logistic rear of Hezbollah, where it is also hiding the manufacturing facilities and the long-range missiles as well.
Great. Thank you. So you mentioned the Lebanese government, Hezbollah. The question remains, and many ask, is how much influence does Hezbollah have in the actual government? Does it wane? Is it strengthened? Where does that sit, and where do you see that, changing at all over the coming? Because it seems without that, we're not sure how much change will actually happen.
Okay, so with the numbers, I'll put it this way. Hezbollah has 2 ministers out of, I think, 26 of the Lebanese government. It doesn't sound much. In the parliament, Hezbollah, during elections again and again and again, preserved the amount of seats of the party of Hezbollah and lost the amount of seats of other parties that were part of a coalition with Hezbollah. Okay, I'll put it this way. In previous elections, there were supposed to be elections in Lebanon in May, and they postponed it in 2 years, which is very unfortunate, I think, because it will give Hezbollah enough time to recover the crisis. But along everything I've just said, you need to understand that all of that doesn't matter. All of that doesn't matter because Hezbollah is a state within a state, not only with regard to government and parliament. It is a state within a state with regard of the question what it is given to the civilians. And it is giving everything you can imagine to the civilians, from gas stations to schools, hospitals, ambulances, groceries, pharmacies, Boy Scouts, as I've mentioned, women organizations, different kind of support associations. Everywhere you look, the average Muslim Shiite in Lebanon has Hezbollah involved in his life, in his community life, in its different needs of life, basic needs of life. Hezbollah is there for him. And that's why it's that powerful in Lebanon. And at the same time, about half of the Lebanese armed forces are actually Muslim Shiites. So you can have a family that one brother is serving in Hezbollah and the other one is serving in the Lebanese armed forces. So clearly they will not kill each other. Okay. In Hebrew we say Melchemet Achim, brothers fight for civil war, but they will not fight each other. And that's why you see that the Lebanese armed forces, including the head, from the head down, top down, are not doing everything they can to avoid any clash with Hezbollah whatsoever. And as I've said, as long as they are not willing to clash with Hezbollah, Hezbollah will not be disarmed. Simple as that.
And I think that's where the support from Iran, if we talk about the two, and the proxy, if you're talking about hospitals and schools and education, funding is coming through Iran, and that's I'm guessing why it is so critical to sever that. Otherwise,
Yes, and also the weapons, the training comes from Iran. The technology of the weapons comes from Iran, and I think that the fall of the Islamic Republic will contribute greatly to weakening Hezbollah inside Lebanon, even though it will not disappear completely. It's difficult to eliminate an ideology, but no doubt it will contribute to the change of the balance of power and the division of power inside Lebanon itself.
You just mentioned weapons. One of the questions asked was Syria in all of this, in terms of a channel for smuggling weapons. We haven't heard much. Where do you think they sit right now, or the potential for them to, support either way?
Okay, I say a few things. First, in the past year or so, the Syrian forces seized smuggling of weapons to Hezbollah about on a weekly basis, and they publish it and they made a lot of PR out of that. So that way we could see not only how much is being seized, but also what was being seized. By the way, the anti-tank missiles that I've mentioned. Second, when this campaign started, Syria sent more forces and stressing its forces on the Syrian-Lebanese border in order to, again, to block option of smuggling and to put more pressure on Hezbollah. Actually, there is an open question here whether those forces, well, in a way, they are jihadi forces, okay? And they are harsh enemies of Hezbollah. It's funny what I'm saying because it's two radical Muslim ideologies. One is Sunni, that's the Syrian one, and the other one is Shiite, that's the Hezbollah. And Hezbollah slaughtered these guys during the civil war in Syria. And it's an open question if they will identify a weakness in Hezbollah, whether they will decide to enter and to revenge. It's like it's the Middle East, it can happen. It looks like it's not within the interest of the government of Syria to do that and to enter into war now while they are very busy in rebuilding the state. But we should take this option in consideration.
Right. Before moving back to Iran, one of the questions here, perhaps you've got some inside information, was regards the commander of the Quds Force, Ismail Khani, and whether he's actually a local Israeli. Any comments on that at all? Whether we think we have
Of course, I don't have any inside information. Yesterday, I saw an AI picture of Khani having lunch with Daddy Barnea in a restaurant with the head of the Mossad. No, nobody knows exactly whether, we don't even know whether he's a spy. We don't know.
Yeah, okay. So shifting back to Iran and in terms of neighboring regions and the situation, we hear different reports here in Australia. We hear one report saying that the war is moving those surrounding nations that we've seen there closer to Israel. We've heard other reports saying this is actually moving them further away, that they feel the US and Israel created this problem. It was all actually okay. They were dealing with it. Trying to get a read on whether we think this is in the long term going to strengthen those ties or weaken them, and perhaps it's weakening in the short term to strengthen in the long term. Any thoughts on that?
I don't accept I wanted to say European, but I think it's also Australian, you tell me, point of view that made the goal in policy as de-escalation. I think this is wrong. I think this is dangerous. The goal in foreign policy and security policy should be peace. And it's not the same thing. Because if you are signing an agreement with an entity that believes in violating agreements and believes that you should not exist, and gaining more and more power to one day be capable of making you not exist, how can you how can you mark the goal as de-escalation? You are taking a huge risk. And we fell in that. And this was our goal on the northern front and in the southern front against Hezbollah and against Hamas for many years. And since what happened to us, we understand that it cannot be the goal. De-escalation is not the goal. Peace is the goal. And we should all go towards that. And when the West is declaring, in opposed to Trump, that it's only a diplomatic solution, what the Islamic Republic takes of this sentence is, okay, we only have to wait. We only have to bomb Israel in 7 missiles every day until Trump will be replaced by somebody else. And we will survive this. And for them, surviving this is victory, means victory with all the damages and the catastrophe that is happening. So I don't think they should survive this. But at the same time, if you don't have boots on the ground, clearly you cannot replace this regime. And none of us want boots on the ground, neither of Americans nor of Israelis, because it's a huge country. And that's why we are trying to create the terms for the for the Iranian people to get rid of the Islamic regime. Will they succeed? I don't know. But we're doing the best we can. And it's very unfortunate that our other countries are not joining.
Right. Just isolating one, Saudi Arabia. We heard so much of Saudi. They were about to perhaps join the Abraham Accords pre-October 7. They seem to be pivotal in some of this changing the paradigm that exists in the Middle East. Where do you think they sit right now? Do you think there's at all a prospect that the Saudis will strengthen ties, or are they just you know? Keeping quiet on the front and behind the
This
scenes.
morning it was published that Prince Crown said that he said something like, "Don't assume that I'm not going to join the war. It may happen." So he actually said that all options are still on the table, and I'm very happy that he said that. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Just a question here about further, your specialty is of course the North, but you have a broad understanding of the bigger picture. Where the Houthis sit in all of this. Someone even asked a question about whether there are alternative routes for oil through those areas. Any comments on their
As
presence?
far as I know, Yemen, in opposed to all other Gulf countries, is not rich in oil. The Houthis, our assessment, and again, it's just an assessment because I'm not an expert to the internal issues of Yemen, but in our assessment, it looks like the Houthis are the last card. And I hope this phrase is right in English. That the Shiite axis is keeping them to be used when all other options are completely gone. And since they still have capabilities in the hands of Hezbollah and from Iran, they don't want to waste the Houthis as well. That's my feeling. I don't think that they will not join. I think that at some point they will join. But again, it's just an assessment. I'm saying that very carefully.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I am conscious of time, of course, your time and the situation that is unfolding there by the hour, and we always like to conclude on the hour. So again, I wanted to thank you so much for your insights. I'm sure all those online would agree with me, incredibly informative. I guess we understand from this we don't know what will transpire over the coming weeks. Israel is under attack, as we know, fighting for future peace and security, not just for Israel, the Middle East and beyond, as you correctly put it. So we continue to pray for the safety of the citizens, our friends, our family, as I mentioned before, and of course, all those protecting our land. We do know, however, that these days will pass. We believe that they will. Certainly from JNF, we'll continue to support those border communities. In the coming months, we're launching our annual campaign for 2025. And again, our mission will be to raise funds for those strategic border communities in Israel's north and south. So if anybody is online, you want to support a personal or a family project, you want to come together as a group of friends to adopt a project, corporate sponsorship, or even just to understand more about what we do. As I mentioned, you'll receive an impact report due out soon. Please contact myself. You can contact Sarah in New South Wales, Tammy in Victoria, Lauren in WA, or your local JNF office. And of course, we'd love to have a chat to you about that. Sarit, I don't know if you have any more any concluding words that you'd like to
Just,
share.
I would highly appreciate if you follow us. It's israel-alma.org. If you subscribe to our newsletter, it's all about news. It's all about interpretation of what's happening here. So you're most welcome to share the information and to spread the word.
Great, thank you. We'll follow this up as well with a link to that. I've personally visited Alma a couple of times and have been fortunate enough to hear your wonderful insights and your expertise on the area. So please, God, we all get back to Israel soon. I know you're always welcoming groups and others to join you
Yeah.
there. So certainly we hope to do that again in the future. So again, thank you so much for your time. Please stay safe. Take care of yourself and the family. Continued in our prayers for Israel. And again, thank you for all those who joined us. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you.
Okay, toda bye.